Welcome back to the Bite Size Podcast. I'm your host, Lorayne Michaels, and today I have with me Dr. Remina, and we are going to talk about all things in the health and wellness, where it's going, where it's been, and a little bit about what Dr. Remina does and what she's super duper passionate about. And so, welcome, Dr. Remina.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here.
Thank you for being here. I know you are a mama and a doctor, and that in and of itself is a handful. So thank you for being here and carving out time from your busy schedule to talk to us about what you absolutely love. So, Western medicine has completely changed from what we once knew it was, right? And when we first got into it, I know we talked about this. We were at an event in Texas not too long ago, and we got to talking about it and shared some common beliefs. And so, tell us why you first got into medicine, not functional medicine, but what first drew you to medicine.
Yeah, and I mean, you definitely started out correctly. Western medicine is not what it used to be. So, what I originally got into medicine, conventional Western medicine, was the idea to help people, but in a scientific way through medicine, because I just found it so fascinating, the aspect of medicine and just using it to help people to save lives, right? That's
Mm,
typically what most doctors or people in the medical field go into, is to help people to save lives, right? And
mm.
so that is the original reason I got drawn into medicine.
Yeah, changing lives. I feel like that's been our um the lifeline, if you will, like the baseline of what we strive for. That's in this personal development space, right? Is we want to help people, and I think that's been the seam of it all. And it kind of morphs into other things, right? I mean, I
Oh
know
yeah.
my story was probably different than yours, but still, like I said, the same seam through it is helping people and how it transformed us into where we are now. And so now you're doing functional medicine, which I absolutely love. And I wish more practitioners would be a little more open minded to that, just because it utilizes the giftings that God has given us, the resources that God has provided us. And it's more of a whole patient approach and trying to get to the root of the problem and not just slap a band aid on it. How did you fall into functional medicine?
And yeah, that's another great point you put, is the bandage approach, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that was always something that, I guess, bothered me. I would say there was something that didn't settle well, but I just didn't know what it was. So my training, when I went to medical school, I'm an osteopathic physician. So in the States, there's two different types of physicians that practice medicine. There's your traditional allopathic medicine, and there's osteopathic physicians too, right? And you take the same boards, you practice in the same settings. The main difference is the approach.
Mm,
So we get more of an integrative medical approach already into our curriculum. And you
mm,
also get more detailed classes of other aspects. So that gives us the tools already to practice and incorporate all the approaches of mind, body, spirit, and lifestyle, not
mm,
just symptoms approach that we do in conventional medicine. Now, that's not to say that allopathic physicians can't practice. They just have to take additional training. They have to take additional training to practice integrative medicine.
mm.
So that's just a portion of it. So then I graduated medical school, went to training. I did internal medicine residency training. So that was my specialty. And then I worked in the hospital setting. And of course, during this time, what really burned me out, as did most people in medicine, is the COVID
Mm,
pandemic. So that's where you could see everything. And at that time, yes, you wanted a bandage approach, but you could also see that, what did people do to lead them up to being more vulnerable to death, right? When things
mm,
happen, you could see that chronic diseases that are tied to a lot of aspects that could be preventable. I'm not saying most, in COVID, some things just weren't in our hands, right? But
Yeah.
in general, that is where I really felt I need to do something more because I'm not really using what I feel is right. In
Mm.
conventional medicine, what it is today, it is a bandage approach. It is insurance based. It's
Mhm.
a business. It's corporate
Mm.
medicine. And
Mm.
doctors and other healthcare workers, we really don't have much power, sadly. And
Mm.
it's just a common misconception for people. Oh, doctors have it together. We do we treat people so, with everything, right? But we're limited. And then there's the other aspect, oh, they make so much money. No, we don't. It's the insurance companies that dictates what we do
Mm.
and how we practice. And
Yeah.
sometimes like they don't even pay well, right? And
Mm.
so it's just changed. The dynamics have changed. It's no longer in the physician and patient control. And
Yeah.
that's just heartbreaking because although conventional medicine is great in the acute setting to put a bandage, right? You
Mhm.
want a bandage if you got like a big cut, like you're about to lose your limb, or if you're having a heart attack, or if you have end stage diseases like and you're having strokes. But there is a whole population that could benefit that isn't necessarily needing a bandage approach. And
Mm.
that's what can be optimal for health, right? And these days, people want to maintain their youth. They want to live quality life longer so they can be there for their purpose, their loved ones, whatever their
Yeah.
purpose is, right? And there's a way to do that. You don't have to keep putting medicine and wait until you have the diseases and then the diseases that lead you down to the bandage approach, right?
Yeah.
And these days, people look at aging as a way of just being decrepit. And that was the
Right.
older definition, right? Like your last decade of life is in and out of the hospital and there's no quality, but it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be that way. And I think now there's a big movement of people that want to embrace the holistic approach. And the way that draws me in is I've always been into that. And I feel like my calling is to help people live their optimal life. And it's to
Yeah.
getting to root cause. And that's what drove me to functional medicine because
Yeah.
it's science based. It works and
Mhm.
it's personalized. It
Yeah.
gets to root cause. It considers lifestyle, right? Lifestyle, also mind, body, spirit. What is
Mm.
your sleep like? What are you eating? What's your stress? Stress kills you. It does, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And relationships, it's looking at it as a holistic approach in that sense.
Yeah.
And the more people are aware of it, which they are, and more practitioners are seeing it's working and
Yeah.
it's the way to go, it's just I feel like this is gonna be the way of medicine. It's gonna be the new
Yeah.
Western.
Yeah.
It's right now how I do it is blending Eastern and Western, but I think this is gonna take over.
Yeah. How do you do that? So being in a practice that is Western medicine, and if you are a functional physician, how do you blend that, and how do you get the practice on board with it if it's not your practice? Like if it's a general practice and there's other practitioners there and you are a functional medicine physician there, how do you get everyone on board to like melding the two together?
Mhm. Yeah, and that's a great question. So I also because I work in the hospital, that aspect is really difficult to
Mm.
incorporate functional medicine, right? Because at that point, you really are just bandaging everyone,
Mhm.
and you can't really do much. But where you can is if you are in a setting where, yes, you can kind of practice an outpatient setting, but there's also a wave of just completely not even following the insurance based model. It's close to you could do your own practice and they call it cash pay. And
Oh,
people
okay.
people shy away from that because they think it's expensive, but it's not, right? If
Mm.
you think about how much do you pay to just get insurance and what is it really doing
Yeah.
for you,
Yeah.
right? If you look at it, you're paying for the quality, the education that the specialist has, right? The functional
Mm.
medicine, like I had to go get an additional almost 2 years of training, get board certified. So that gives me the tools not only from my medical career, but enhancing it through my specialty, right? So you want to
Yeah.
see a specialist and the amount that you pay If you go into a traditional medical practice, your copay is still going to be like over $100. So what
Mhm.
are you paying for, right? So
Yeah.
if you look at that personalized approach, the education, the expertise, and the personalized approach to you, the quality is there, and then you don't have to fight any other barriers.
Right. Yeah, if
So
things are approved or denied, right?
exactly, or just
So
getting
h
access.
yeah. Oh, 100%. So what would you say to, the patients that are fed up with the insurance and things getting denied, or them not the doctors that they're seeing are not getting to the root of it, and they're just kinda, pushing them around, going to different specialists, that are thinking about, "Hey, I wanna check out functional medicine." How would they do this? And if they're fed up with insurance, how would they not well, they'd forego their insurance, do this cash pay approach, and find functional physicians that practice this way?
Yeah, well, some functional medicine providers do both, right? They'll still have their
Mhm.
traditional practices, but there's also an option where they can provide functional medicine, and certain aspects can be covered by insurance. So there's a way that they can work around it.
Mm.
So I wouldn't say let go of the insurance, because that's a good, I would say, backup. Say,
Mm.
God forbid, if you have to go to the hospital, then
Yeah.
it's there. It's there to provide just a safety blanket, right?
Right.
And also, you want to keep up with your screenings, like
Mm.
your preventive care screenings. That's still
Mhm.
important. You still want to keep up with, pap smears, mammograms, prostate if you're a man. All those things you want to keep up with, because
Mm.
that helps you with the true prevention. And
Right.
so the functional medicine physician, or if you're practicing both, can still ask, you could still access that component. So there
Right.
are some that only solely practice functional medicine, and it's just like a concierge, no insurance base. And for that aspects, you could honestly, it's either a word of mouth, you could
Mm.
Google, but you have to be careful because
Yeah.
not everyone is going to practice as a physician. There's other credentials. So that's why it's important you work with someone who cares, who's credible, and who has the expertise and is trustworthy. So a lot of it, yes, you want to research. They will, a lot of them will give you a chance to have like a discovery call. Use that. Ask them questions. What's your approach? I've done this. I've gone to so many doctors. How are you going to be different? How can we work together? That's you taking your health into your hands and using that therapeutic relationship with the functional medicine doctor as a tool, as a guidance. So you got to do your research on your end, see what works. And there's a lot of people out there, they will use social media, they will use internet, and just find out what works for you. It's the feel. When you have the conversation, a lot of it is the feel. Will this work out? Can we have a good therapeutic relationship?
Yeah. Have you noticed, a lot of people like, are you educating a lot of people on this availability? Like, because I know a lot of people, because I'm in medicine or was in medicine, are just unaware of what functional medicine is. Are you finding that you're educating a lot of your patient population? Hey, this is actually available to you, and it does work. It's not, you know, oils and
Yeah.
mantras, like, it actually works.
Yeah, and that's funny you say that because I always use this term. People think it's woo woo,
Yes, yes.
and that's because it's been kind of infiltrated by people that aren't credentialed for this.
Yeah.
But yes, so interestingly, there are people that I do educate on what it truly is functional medicine. And they're like, oh, wow, this is so fascinating. But then other people are already familiar with it because they've
Mm,
done the research, or they've seen a functional medicine physician and they've moved different states and they want to see a different one.
mhm.
Um, so it's a little bit of both. It's a little
Yeah,
bit of clarifying the misconceptions. It's a little bit about educating and
yeah,
bringing to awareness that how health could be true health to help you get to root cause, or just be optimal. So you can, even though you're healthy, or what you think is healthy, you could be optimal.
yeah. So are you like Do you have other resources as well, other physicians that you can collaborate with that practice functional medicine that are more specialized? So if someone comes to you in the hospital and it is something that is a root, the root cause is going to require a different specialist, and you can refer them to that specialist because you know that they do practice functional medicine as well, and they're not going to just throw medication at them. They're going to go deeper to the root issue. Um, are you in collaboration with other physicians that do practice this way?
So in my area, there are specialists, but there's not many that practice functional medicine. There are
Mm,
some here, like the gynecologists. I mean, that's a big one. Gynecologists that practice functional medicine, and they also blend Eastern and Western in their sense. Um, and then there are some GI doctors, there's cardiologists. They're not local, but they're available across the states. And that's the
mm,
other portion of how we deliver medicine, but also even on top of that, functional medicine is
right.
you can take it virtually. And that's the whole movement is being concierge and virtual.
That's
So you could collaborate with many physicians and also
yeah,
patients and other specialists too. So it's not just the physicians, but also the modalities, right?
yeah,
So if you have someone, for instance, trauma therapy, right? I'm not a certified trauma therapist, but I have a psychologist that's in the area that practices not a non-traditional approach. So
yeah.
she is certified, she's a psychologist, but she also blends all these other
Mm,
modalities. And I
oh, that's
find that
awesome.
is so important to collaborate on that aspect because even though I can treat everyone basically as a whole because that's how I believe you're a whole,
Yeah,
but I'm not certified in trauma therapy, right? And so
right,
that's where
right.
the collaboration comes in and we can treat the person as a whole, and that's part of getting to root cause is shows up in different spaces, right? And if you look at the movement of mental illness, mental disorders, that's just a label. What's the root cause, right?
Mhm.
And so that is how one of
Yeah,
the ways that I collaborate with another doctor in the area that practices a holistic approach, and it is successful. And then also
oh,
adding
that's
in
awesome.
like yeah, like adding in meditation, sound bath, yoga,
Mm,
right? I also collaborate with people that do that. And it is such a therapeutic benefit for the patient, and you see
yeah,
changes.
yeah, absolutely. Being in the hospital, though, how do you follow up with them? How do you, if they find you and they love you and they want to work with you, but you're in the hospital, can they continue that relationship that, um, working with you? Are they able to do that?
If they're interested, and it's always a feel, right? It's the patient that's going to say, well, doctor, I've done this and that, and I thought I was doing right, but here I am, I'm
Mm,
having a heart attack. What else can I do? What
mm,
else can I do?
yeah.
And then that's where I'm like, okay, so they're ready to listen. Let's
Mm,
capitalize on the
yeah.
lifestyle. Let's capitalize because yes, maybe it's genetics. You can't control genetics, but you can control how you live your life and what you do with it. And that's also a big factor because you got genes, you got the environment, and you got the
Mm,
lifestyle. And that's where the functional medicine approach comes in. So that's where I would say, okay, yes, there's more you could do. And let's talk.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's key. I love the fact that this is becoming more of an awareness and people are getting educated about it and it's not just woo woo. Although there is some stuff you're like, that's not really right. um so it's great to see that this is a movement, and it's a positive movement and it's beneficial for us. Um and it would be wonderful to see more of the melding of the two because having worked in, the emergency department and the trauma center locally, there is a place for Western medicine, 100%. But there also is a place for functional medicine because, like I had said in the beginning, you know, God created us with the intentionality of everything working together and also with the resources to heal ourselves naturally. And it doesn't have to be man made. Although there are some cases where a man-made medication would help, but that wasn't the intent for us to live that way, totally dependent on a medication. And I feel like if more people realized that and they didn't have this mindset of it is what it is, but like if they knew what the root cause was, if they knew what caused them to get to this place and it could be reversed and it does take work, then I think more people would be apt to doing it. Unfortunately, we are a microwave society and people just want the quick fix now and they would rather just pop a pill and deal with it. But I also think if they knew the level of good that they could feel if they just did the work, it would be so much more worth it, you know?
Absolutely. And here's the thing, like, you could keep throwing pills and bandages, but then you look at, and I'm not calling out specifically the elderly population, but because there are some 100 years old patients that like take no medicines and they
Mhm.
truly stick to lifestyle. But there are. It's not uncommon that people will come in with a bag of medication, right? But
Mhm.
then you have to think
Yeah.
about, okay, you're never going to get to root cause, but it's going to show up in some way. If you don't take time for your health right now, it
Mhm.
will show up when it's late.
Yeah.
And all the medicines you keep taking, think about it. There's side effects. There's a
Yeah.
interaction that happens. Like
Mm.
people that I see in the hospital that are polypharmacies, what you call it, and you end up
Yeah.
with side effects. You have people think you're confused, you're having a stroke, or whatever the case is, whatever weird symptom you come in with, but it's because of the compounding effects of all the medication, the polypharmacy. So
Mhm.
that has a side effect too.
Yeah.
So at that point, we're going to be like, well, I think you try to mask it enough and your body is ready to show you root cause. So let's
Yeah.
evaluate this now. And what happens, you end up taking up more time, more money, so you have to face
Yeah.
it eventually, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know. So that's it's the sad truth of it all. Um So I want to give you an opportunity to talk about what you're most passionate about, and I know it is functional medicine.
Mhm.
But is there anything that you are working on that you want to just really showcase?
Yeah, thank you for that. Absolutely. I love functional medicine and I love to help people that way. So part of what I'm doing is not just the functional medicine approach and sharing that aspect of medicine to help people personally. So I do have that concierge and virtual practice. So
Hmm.
that's there so people can work. But I also love adding in the opportunity to bring the talks to stage. So I definitely want
Mm,
to start bringing the keynote speaker aspect because more people need to know about this, right? And
yeah,
how it applies and how you could be better and take charge of your health. So the keynote speaker at conferences, that's one. And expanding my podcast, the Dr. Remina Show, that's also something that you could have a bit of information on every topic. It's for everyone.
yeah,
And then um, I'm definitely going to start writing an outline for a book. So
awesome,
that's coming up too. So a couple of
good
things, right?
deal.
Just that
Yeah,
entrepreneurial spirit that
yeah,
spreads the awareness and
yeah.
love and empowerment to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. That empowerment piece is huge because I feel like a lot of people nowadays they don't feel like they have control or power over their health. They feel like they're, subject to the bag of medicine. So having that education, what you're doing and speaking to people and at conferences and whatnot, that education piece really does empower the patient to take control over their health and wellness. And I think that is important for everyone. So do you speak at like within businesses, practices, all the things?
All the things, and
Okay.
that's the part. We could do corporate wellness, we could do actual conferences, and then there's wellness workshops too that I love to speak with, and then add in the practice of that component. So there's yoga, sound bath, meditation. So you could really mold it into whatever scenario you want, and that's the beauty
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear more about this book and how that's going to unfold.
Yes.
We'll put all of your contact information in the show notes. So, how they can find you on social, if they want to book you to speak. And also, y'all need to listen to this podcast. Dr. Remina knows what she's talking about. She's got a heart for helping and a plethora of information as well. So, friends, if this episode has helped you in any way, or if you know someone that would benefit from this and they need to hear it, please share it and tag us so we can follow up with you and have a conversation, and just so we can meet you virtually. But as always, guys, I love you. And just remember, you were divinely created for a divine purpose, and there was no mistake in you.